Welcome to another 3D comparison video. We're going to take a look at texture painting within Blender. So for the case study, I have chosen this helmet. As you can see, this is a Centurion helmet. I will also put the download link within the video description, so feel free to check the same model. We're going to see that this is a free download under the Creative Commons license v4. So the format will be OBJ and WRL. For this case study, I have already downloaded the OBJ file. So let's get the object added within Blender. File, import. We're gonna go for the OBJ. We see over here wave front OBJ. I'm gonna go to downloads and we see that I have the Centurion helmet OBJ over here, and I will double click on the OBJ. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit to better center the model, and I'm gonna go for the viewport shading in order to see that as well. Now, as we can see, since this is an OBJ, we have to change a little bit the material. So I'm gonna go over here to the material properties, and as we can see, we have a high amount of specularity on the material. So I will just move the specular material a little bit. So as we can see, the material will look like this now. I will just add a 0.1, but we are still gonna see those triangles. So since this was 3D scan with Artec, we can just change the shading within Blender, and we can do that with a right click on the model, and I'm gonna go for shaded smooth. And we're gonna see how much of a difference that will make for the visualization of the model. So I'm just gonna leave the specular to 0.2. Now, in order to see how texture painting works, I'm gonna overwrite all these elements at the top with an let's say a golden material. And for that, I have downloaded this yellow wall texture with Scratch. So this is just as a case study, even though it's not the same, let's say, material type. But let's see how we can apply that only to some areas. With the object selected, if I'm gonna go within UV editing, we're gonna see the unwrap of the model. We need to re-enable the shading over here. And as soon as I will select something within the 3D viewer, or I can press A, which will select everything, we're gonna see that this will be the unwrapped. So the unwrap was created using Artec Studio, and as you can see, it's not, let's say, not that easy to work with it. Blender does a better job using the Smart UV project, but in this case, we're gonna make use with the texture that resulted from that scanning, and as we can see, this was scanned using Artec Spider. So if you're not familiar with that scanner, this is the Artec Spider. It's quite an old scanner, so it was released around 2015. And as we can see, they are still selling this. So we see the price. There's also a special education price for this. So let's get started with that texture painting. Therefore, I'm going to open up the texture paint workspace within Blender. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And we need to add that texture over here to the right where we have the texture properties. I'm going to create a new texture for this brush. And within this area, we can add an image or a movie. So I'm going to add an image. I'm going to go with open. And I already downloaded that yellow texture. So I'm gonna go to downloads, and we're gonna see the yellow texture over here. So yellow wall texture with scratches. I'm gonna have that opened. Now we can also change the tiling over here. As we can see, we have some elements over here to the right. But if I'm gonna go within the texture paint workbench, I'm gonna press N to open the side panel. We're gonna see that underneath the texture, we now gonna have that object added, and we see that this is currently, the mapping is set to tiled, so we can change that. We can change that, for example, to random. And afterwards, with this brush selected, I can just zoom in the model and I can start painting over the areas that I want to. So we're gonna see that in real time this UV unwrap will also be updated. So as we can see, we have some yellow over there at the top and over here. And as soon as I will start adding that color overlay, that will also propagate to the UV. So as you can see, the UV unwrapping created by Arctic Spider is not that great. So we have these elements splitted into various areas within the unwrap. But we can use Blender with no problems to add, let's say, additional layer of color overlay over some areas. As you can see, this is quite easy. We can also change the strength at the top. We see that difference regarding the strength. For example, I can go even lower, like 0.2. And now I will need to make multiple strokes in order to achieve that same texture. And we can also go within the color, and if you want to adjust the color, we can just multiply, for example, the green. As we can see, now we're gonna have this more yellowish texture. We can also add in some more blue and subtract some of that, and now we're gonna have this pink texture using that same wall scratch texture that we applied over there. And at the end, if I'm gonna go back to the layout, we're gonna have our model repainted. So this is very useful, especially for objects that are missing various areas that were filled, maybe within some computer-aided software design or something like Geomagic Wrap, and afterwards we can easily use Blender Texture Paint to do this. There is also Substance Painter that does the same, but that program is not free, so that's why I prefer to do it in Blender. So I hope that you find this video useful. If so, I will position a similar video over here to the left, and I will put a subscribe button to the right. So thanks for watching.